This billionaire just exposed that Wall Street finally found out what we know all along, but he's saying the quiet parts out loud, and he's showing why Wall Street is now going all in on Bitcoin and everything Bitcoin. But first, before I dive into all of that, we've got to dive in to what the Giga Chad Michael Saylor himself said at Strategy World that is unveiling what we are seeing going on in Wall Street and why everybody is seemingly copying this strategy playbook. But first, let's hear it from Michael Saylor himself.
So here's the hard truth about publicly traded equities. If I expand my view from New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ to, all the over-the-counter publicly traded securities, there's 12,000. Of those 12,000, 15% can beat the S&P index. 15% beat the index over the course of a decade. 12% of them have a stock that's got more than $10 million a day of liquidity. 83% of all the trading volume in the stock market in the United States is 100 stocks. When you watch CNBC and it's like, NVIDIA, Apple, Google, Meta, NVIDIA, Apple. My opinion of Apple. My opinion of NVIDIA. My opinion of the 2X NVIDIA ETF. Apple, 2X Apple. NVIDIA, Meta. Gold, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. And if you're waiting for your favorite company to pop up, it's not going to pop up because the television knows that people just want to trade these 100 things.
Exactly. So, what Michael Saylor is essentially describing here is the 4% rule that, if you could see in this now screen here, that only 4% of all equities beat the Magnificent Seven. So, what is the point of investing in anything else outside of the Mag 7? Well, you've guessed it. It doesn't really have a huge point here. But there's something interesting that I think all people should be keeping a very close eye on, and it's the largest money managers in the world, right? So BlackRock doesn't necessarily own all of the said stock market, but they have a monopoly on the ETF market, which are just a conglomerate of various companies. And they own over 30% of that directly, Vanguard, right? With our BlackRock, with Vanguard in a close second with 29%. And what are these big dogs doing right now? What are they continuing to go about? Well, BlackRock is now raising money to increase their Bitcoin exposure. Now, they have access to all of these publicly traded companies. And on top of that access to all of these publicly traded companies, BlackRock is also a big time holder into MSTR or MicroStrategy or now Strategy. And so all of these corporations that are now looking to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet, well, they're the only ones that could possibly beat out these Mag 7. I mean, Michael Saylor even said it in a clip earlier that I'm not going to go ahead and show all of it just now, because if you guys really want to, you can go and sit through his entire talk. But what Michael Saylor shows is that, hey, we were competing with Microsoft. Microsoft made their software essentially free. So why would I be able, or how could I even compete with something like that? The short answer is you really can't. And so what are they doing? These companies are now, these major guys are looking at their Bitcoin exposure and raising it, right? We've got BlackRock raising their exposure. We've even got some of the other big dogs in here. Goldman Sachs increasing their Bitcoin exposure every single quarter. And it seems like the big guys just keep on doing it. Now you got to ask yourself, why do they keep increasing Bitcoin exposure? Why don't they increase their exposure in the S&P 500 or some other ETF product or something else, right? Well, the short answer is you got to hammer your winners, right? You continually to hammer your winners. And all of this has started a wave of corporate FOMO. I covered it a bit yesterday in my live stream about 21 and Jack Mallers, but you're seeing it even more today when you've got guys like looking at MicroStrategy and the massive amount of exposure around strategy and what they are doing. I mean, you could look, they're increasing their Bitcoin holdings at a rapid pace, especially over the past 6 months. Like, look at this chart of just rapidly increasing and increasing and increasing. So these corporations are continuing to buy, double, and triple down on Bitcoin. And it's obvious that they see really no way to beat the Mag 7. So if you can't beat them, you got to find some other innovative way. So these other publicly traded companies are finding unique ways, and they're seeing what other assets are beating the Mag 7. So, all other stocks essentially are just holding companies, it seems like, right? I mean, if you go back to this great graphic here that Michael Saylor is showing, the volume 83% of all volume concentration is up from the top 100 stocks, and only 12% of stocks have more than $10 million worth of trading volume. I know 10 million sounds like a lot, but quite frankly, 12% having more than that is pretty low, and 8% are in the options market. So the reality is a lot of publicly traded companies just aren't seeing much exposure to anything really here at all. And then at the end of the day, 4% of public companies create the net wealth. So 96% of these stocks are zombie companies not going anywhere. Well, what's one of the other outliers here? It's good old MSTR, which is traded at a higher volume than 96% of companies, and also is traded like a Mag 7, even though it's the 128th company when you rank it by market cap. So all of these other companies are starting to take notice. And, Wall Street firms are going to start to force companies, especially these zombie companies, to start to try to adopt some sort of Bitcoin standard because, quite frankly, they're just not doing anything here today, right? So it's absolutely insane. And then, we've got other billionaires now coming into the fold. We got Vivek Ramaswamy, Strives Asset Management, to form the first publicly traded asset management Bitcoin treasury company. So we've got Jack Mallers and Michael Saylor now putting all these billionaires in a tizzy, is how I'll describe it here, because they're just scrambling to try to create as much wealth as possible. So how do you create all this wealth? It seems like at the core, the only way to do it right now is to buy more Bitcoin and continue to go all in on Bitcoin. So Vivek Ramaswamy seeing that, he's not a dumb cat. He's seeing how they are operating, and he's like, I've got to continue to stack as much Bitcoin as humanely possible at this point in time. So we've got Vivek Ramaswamy raising up $1 billion just to buy Bitcoin. Literally, they're like, hey, we want to get at least 10 Bitcoin. So or at least 100 Bitcoin. So, what do we got to do? We got to just raise some money. And it's interesting because they're speaking and saying all this stuff at the Bitcoin for Corporations days. So these guys aren't even hiding it anymore. They're telling people exactly what they are doing. They're live streaming this event for thousands and thousands to see. And it's going to start a wave of corporate FOMO, because what we're seeing is BlackRock and all these other big dogs are doing and leading the charge when it comes to Bitcoin adoption. So all of these giant money managers are seeing, hey, if you want to win, you got to put Bitcoin in, right? If you guys get that movie reference, hopefully you do. But if you want to win, you got to put Bitcoin in the portfolio. And a lot of other corporations have already started to realize that, right? Of course, we've got MetaPlanet. It essentially was a dead company at this point in time. It was a dead hospitality company with hotels and other various things in Japan. And then what happened? The old cerveza sickness, as my friend George Gammon deems it, came out, and travel was essentially halted. So what did MetaPlanet do? They put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And what happened when Bitcoin got put on the balance sheet? Well, the stock hit that skyrockets in flight. Boom, afternoon delight, and just absolutely took off like nothing we've seen before. And look at that BTC yield that they got, 136.7 yield. And it now holds the 5555 Bitcoin worth of Bitcoin, which is absolutely electric. So I think we're going to continue to see companies start to put in this Bitcoin as their balance sheet. And we also saw it from KULR. They acquired more Bitcoin. And look at this. Michael Saylor's keeping track of all of these guys, right? So we've got the largest event going on right now with Bitcoin for corporations. And what did BlackRock also do recently? They increased their MSTR holdings. And what did they do? Well, they had to file because they wanted to own a 5% stake in MSTR. So if BlackRock is actively increasing their holdings and continuing to do so in Bitcoin and on MSTR, they are seeing the Bitcoin as a hold and as a something to put on your cash reserves as a corporation as a necessity. And they're doubling and tripling down. They're putting their money where their mouth is. But, you know, don't be like Down Under Blues, who's saying his wife's financial advisor at his firm told her today that Bitcoin isn't a good investment idea. It's too volatile. Amen to that. He says his wife is now complaining that she doesn't see a Lambo sitting in the driveway just yet. Hey, Down Under Blues, I think those Down Under Blues will turn into cheers here at the end of this year. I think we're going to start to see this price get extra juicy because we're seeing Bitcoin still, all this bullish news that we've got, and Bitcoin still under 100K. Look, I think once we get past this 100K mark, it's going to be something that is going to be for the record books. Bitcoin is going to go on a generational run that we have never seen before. And I think we're just getting started in this. But if you guys are sticking around here, stick around for just longer because I'm going to be giving away some free sats courtesy of my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. Comment in the chat if you're out here. I know you guys are being extra quiet and bashful. We've got over 150 of you in the chat. And we got just Down Under Blues just telling me how his wife is complaining about these Bitcoin prices. But anyway, let's get to the point at hand. Get your Lightning wallets ready. We've got now Bitcoin Well. If you sign up at bitcoinwell.com/greencandle, I'll give you 500 Wishing Well tokens. These 500 will give you one toss. That one toss can earn you up to 1 million sats. You never know. That could be generational wealth. That's that 0.01 Bitcoin that everybody is talking about. And then once you buy a little bit, you'll get 2 tosses. So I'll give you one and then you'll get another one. And then you set up that recurring buy, that DCA for $10, you'll get more and more tokens and continue to get that as time goes on, as you're stacking. So enough from this blabbering. Let's give away these free sats that we've got going on here. So what do we got down this Wishing Well? Boom, 309. Man, look at what Bitcoin Well is doing. They're mixing it up for you here, folks, where they are not giving away just the 210 or whatever. They're mixing up these values. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button down below, and hit the bell notification so you guys know when I'm going live so you can get those free sats. And regardless, if you missed that opportunity, you could go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle, sign up there. That's where you'll get the 500. Or you could scroll on down and you could book a call with that specialist for an OTC, over the counter, 50K and up. Those are the big dogs. But hey, if you've got it, I think it's a perfect time to smash buy Bitcoin and do all that here very, very soon. So I think you guys should do that and get on that ASAP like Rocky. Outside of that, we can Now, because Bitcoin Well forces you to go into self-custody, you should store it with a Bitbox. You could go to bitbox.swiss/green candle. You'll see this great logo here. You click on it here today. You could get the Bitcoin only edition. It's absolutely great. I have no complaints. It makes it so easy to store my Bitcoin. And on top of it, they've got a Steel Wallet Pro. So you can stamp your seed phrase in whatever you like and just continue to live your life knowing that your Bitcoin is stored very securely. Because BlackRock, MSTR, all of these big dogs are coming, right? All of these guys are coming here to try to scoop up as much Bitcoin as possible. We don't want to see this State Farm ad, so I don't know what's going on here. Uh, I don't know, man. I can't. I need to get one of these ad blockers up here, but because this is ridiculous. It's cramping my style when I'm trying to show you guys this headline that BlackRock is raising these Bitcoin exposure for $5.4 billion. We've got Goldman Sachs increasing it by $2 billion. We've got Vivek Ramaswamy raising another $1 billion. I mean, there's just billions and billions and billions of dollars being tossed around here, all towards Bitcoin. And if you don't see the writing on the wall here, folks, I can't help you. I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, it's getting ridiculous out here how people are still bearish on this asset because Michael Saylor exposing that 4% rule is essentially showing us what we've all known. We all know the S&P 500. It's essentially just following inflation, but not really, right? Inflation's at 2% or 2.5%. So it's not really. Well, we all know that that number is a complete and utter lie. And we all know that, okay, we've got a few companies essentially holding up the S&P 500. And those few companies are the Mag 7 that we all know and love, right? Apple, Meta, Google, all the big dogs, they aren't going anywhere. We all know that. Everybody essentially just wants to have those stocks, and that's what they're playing with. They're not going after these small little dogs, except when you put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And BlackRock knows it. All of these other guys know it. And BlackRock is putting their money where their mouth is. They see MSTR and they have to, I mean, like this 5%, it sounds like a little bit, but the big kicker with all of this, I did a live stream on this a couple months ago when this actually happened, but you have to file for this. You have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. You have to do a Schedule 13G filing in order to do that, to become 5% more of a holder. So it's not something that's trivial. You got to hire up lawyers. You got to do all these different kinds of things all to do it. You got to bring attention to the stock that you wanted to buy. So you will be able to, so you're seeing now what BlackRock is doing. You're seeing what Goldman Sachs is doing. And Michael Saylor is exposing it, right? That Wall Street is dead. The traditional financial system is dead as we know it, unless you get the Mag 7 or you get a company that is holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. This is an interesting one. TF is saying Berkshire Hathaway may buy a lot of BTC. Look, they are the largest cash balance holders of any corporation or publicly traded corporation that I could find. And they've got more than double the amount of cash than Apple does, who's the second oldest. So if, good old Warren B gets his head out of his ass, maybe this might actually be true. It's not as outlandish as you may think, TF. Down Under Blue says, I told my wife I got her covered. I'll buy the Bitcoin. Hey, don't smash buy $25 worth here using Bitcoin well, because that might send this price skyrocketing in flight over here. But I think you're right, Down Under Blues. When the Fed pivots, that's when we're going to start to see this, when global liquidity comes in. But I think, we've already seen that global M2 money supply increase. The thing that we already saw this today. The Fed did not cut interest rates. And now they're already making the projections for, are we going to cut in June? which is over a month away, the next meeting. Well, it's a 20% chance here today. Maybe I'll be covering this a little bit more for you guys as we go on. TF is saying Buffett couldn't turn around now. They needed new CEO to change their story. Well, I don't know, man. He was very bearish on Apple for a long period of time, and then he flipped the script. So, Buffett, as old as he is, maybe he'll see the writing on the wall. He is one of the greatest investors of all time. We've got to give him, respect where respect is due. But the interesting aspect of it is he was one of the best investors of all time, and he's missed the boat on the best performing asset in the past 15 years. So, maybe he'll start to come around, but as us plebs in the chat here have all avoided making the same mistake as Warren Buffett. The difference is Warren Buffett, honestly, he has access to tools that we quite frankly don't have. He can borrow a lot of money in order to buy a lot of Bitcoin if he so chooses. Well, anyway, guys, I appreciate you all coming in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, because I will be giving out free sats on every single live stream. So be sure you hit that bell notification so you know when your boy is going live. And also, I'm going to be going live on my other channel, the Macro Insights Pod, here very soon. So if you guys haven't checked it out just yet, go over to the Macro Insights Pod, look at the streams, because I'm going to be going live in the next 5 to 10 minutes. All right. Thank you guys. See you at the next one.